Still sitting in a truck seat that's older than your favorite pair of work boots? Your back has been filing complaints for years. If your seat is worn out, sagging, or just plain uncomfortable, it's time for an upgrade. Head on over to seatspecialist.com. Check out their selection of quality replacement seats built to keep you comfortable mile after mile. And don't forget to use promo code TR10 4U to save 10% on your order. Seatspecialist.com, because a better ride starts with a better seat. Welcome back to another episode of That's Delivered. I'm your host, Trucking Ray. And today we have a show that you'll certainly enjoy. It's talking about communication, how we are able to talk to individuals to basically help ourselves in the industry be successful. In trucking, miscommunication can cost you time, money, and even relationships. So whether it's dispatch confusion or misunderstood rate or unclear company values, a lot of the things that keep our companies going, we want that to be clear. So today we're talking with Jimi Gibson, the Vice President of Brand Communication at Thrive Internet Marketing Agency. He spent 25 years helping businesses, especially in high-pressure industries, craft messages that connect, build trust, and drive results. He's also the creator of the Magic Script, a framework for messaging that works under pressure. And get this, Jimmy's background is a professional musician. It gives him a unique take on attention, timing, and audience trust. So let's go ahead and get this started for you guys. Let's go ahead and dig in and learn the lessons that apply to trucking. Jimmy, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ray. Good to be here, and love the graphics and intro and music and all of that. You seem cool as a cucumber to be in the high pace world of trucking. So
yeah, trucking is a passion of mine. I love it a lot. I'm sure there's more to learn. It seems like you're never learning at all. Even with a podcast, you get a lot of great guests on, but there's still so much you can learn, just like yourself. Tell us about yourself and all the things that you got involved with. Our listeners are eager to learn. What kicks it off for you in your experience with the musician influence and the way you talk about messaging and moving industries like trucking?
Yeah. So you mentioned it in the intro. I guess I was maybe digging through some boxes a couple of years ago and found this little membership card to Merlin's Mail Order Magic Club when I was 4 years old. And I pulled that card out and I was like, wow, that's pretty early to get involved in something like that. And yeah, it just kept growing. I was doing birthday party shows for my friends in middle school, and their parents were paying me to entertain my friends. And I went, wow, that's a good way to make money instead of cutting grass and doing all that. In high school, I met a guy who was an account executive at an advertising agency. We call them digital marketing agencies. I guess there's still some vintage ones around they call ad agencies, but he was looking for a performer to help a pretty large global brand to do promotional shows and asked me if I'd be interested in, working behind the fast food counter, or like I said, cutting people's lawns or doing magic for a big global brand. I said, sure, I'll do that. And that relationship lasted another 17 years. And so through that process, I had to learn quickly how to grab attention, how to hold an audience, how to deliver a message that the client wanted delivered. And I guess it set me up as I started thinking about a career. And I've had sort of a dual career. I still do magic shows, but I thought if there was one career that was very similar to magic, it was marketing, and that whole world of crafting a message and moving people to a decision, keeping them interested. And so I guess that's the lens that I see the world through. And I've worked at a number of agencies over my career. Thrive Internet Marketing Agency, we're probably larger than about 95% of agencies out there. And that's a cool place to be. But when you're dealing with 1,000 active clients, that's a lot of attention that you have to grab. And so it's been fun. And of course, we may get into the world of AI that is transforming a lot of the way that business is done through marketing. But yeah, I would say that's a quick background on me, and we can jump in to wherever you want to go with that.
That's awesome. What a cool story. You get to have fun, and also many people want attention nowadays. They just don't know how to get it, and you learn how to do it the proper way and also a productive way. In trucking, there's a lot of high stress, fast pace. And why does messaging tend to fall apart under pressure, and how do you companies avoid that?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of high pressure clients that we work with, obviously in the financial and legal sectors, healthcare, when, you know, somebody's sick or something's going on, especially in logistics. And then trucking, I think stress shortens sentences and shrinks patience, right? And so people stop explaining the why behind what they're asking, and they just sort of bark out the what of what they're expecting to have happen. And I think that, as you said in the intro, it could lead to missed pickups, angry drivers, maybe shortcuts on safety. And really, the fix isn't more words, it's about simplifying, being clear, making sure you choose the right words, understanding empathy. To use a cliche, put yourself in the seat of the person who you're speaking with. What do they need to know? And it's not always about your perspective. It's about, if you can't explain it clearly, then you're not going to get the response or the reaction or the result that you're looking for.
Wow. I mean, that's huge, especially in the podcast world. I mean, you want to get that message across. You want people to understand what's going on, to
Yeah.
feel what you're trying to relay. It's a huge part of the process, even in podcasting world. So I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's talk about real world examples. What is something that you've seen in trucking or in logistics that companies get wrong or they get right? It comes with the territory of communication. What would you say?
Yeah. I would say, if you're rolling out a new safety policy by email only, which is pages of legal copy, nobody's going to read it. And so the compliance of that tanks, you have to be able to translate that message into something that might be just a 10-minute stand-up that hits the highlights. Visuals. Storytelling is also really the way we absorb information. And facts and figures leave the brain as quickly as they go in, right? And if you can't relate it to a story, then I think that's the part that maybe feels a little weird to people, is like, well, I can't tell a story about, a communication or a safety policy. Oh yeah, you can. You can talk about how it went well and how it went not so well. And, we were working specifically with a moving company. And so they were a regional moving company, and they came to thrive after they launched a new website. And one of the problems that they had was a bad sitemap. And so, for those of you who don't know what a sitemap is, it's basically a blueprint for what the site looks like. And certainly a website is good for people to be able to read a website, but you also have to make sure that Google and these crawlers understand how that site functions, so that you can get preferential ranking when somebody searches for something in your industry. And so, I think it goes back to, what is the intent? What are we trying to accomplish? And because they were a more regionally based company, the sitemap really didn't give the clues to the reader or the bots that they were in a particular geographic area. And so they had lost a lot of the traffic to their website because of that. And so what we did was we went back and, again, took the seat of, I'm somebody looking for, whether it be a corporate move or a personal move or whatever the case may be, how am I going to go about engaging with that search? And that's changed a little bit related to AI, but let's just take it from the basic standpoint of, I'm sitting in my seat, I have a move, whether I'm somebody in a corporation who is navigating an executive move, or, moving a team across the country, or I'm looking to move myself from one place to another. What are those questions that I'm asking myself? How am I going about the search? There's destinations related to where I'm going, right? And so I have to understand, can you get me from here to there? There's various price points that I'm interested in knowing about. I'm interested in knowing, can you handle, multiple homes and multiple people at the same time, or are you just apartment to apartment? And so once you start to break down exactly the details related to that, then that should drive the content, that should drive the messaging, and it should be in simple language, right? if I don't know how big a truck is needed to do the job, and if it is a lot of the corporate moving clients that we work with, you're not dedicated to one truck, right? They may move you in pieces. They may tandem you with other loads that compile all that together to get a better price. That typically relates to maybe a delivery time that's not as quick, but it is affordable. And you need to be able to speak in that customer's language so they understand all of those nuances to moving from point A to point B. And I would say once we took that through the process, their form fills increased by 70%. The top 10 keywords associated with their particular business grew by 135%. Their top keyword rankings in the top 5 year over year jumped 1,400%. And then their total conversions across all channels basically doubled. And so what's the lesson? The lesson is, if you can't communicate what you do clearly to the people who are buying what you're buying, and especially in all of the nuances and details related to a logistical move, then you're just going to lose. Like, it's just as simple as that. And so I think once you've heard the old saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. You have to step back. You have to look at it from your audience's perspective. And then you have to be brutally honest about, if I didn't know anything about moving from A to B, would I be able to understand what I've just written? So anyway, I know that was a lot, but
it's great. You're doing great with it. Yeah. Huh, man, that's a lot of moving parts. I'm sure it is. It's a huge industry, marketing. And when you think about all those things that go into play, people just want to get the attention. They just want to get the likes. They want to get to close the deal. They want the end result. They want the reward right away. But there's a lot of steps that go in between there. So how does the magic script help out with that? Maybe you're a dispatcher, you're a recruiter, or a fleet owner, or you just want to communicate more clearly. Maybe you got a podcast, or maybe you're a comedian or a musician. What does the magic script help out with that? What is it? What is that?
Well, before I get into that, let's try a little something. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
So I'm calling in today from Charleston, South Carolina. You're in the Midwest, is that right? Where are you?
Yeah, Minnesota. Yeah.
Minnesota. Probably had some good weather recently. Y'all are usually on the cold side of things. Yeah. What did you do this weekend, Ray?
Man, I took it easy. Try to get some time to relax. Spent some time with my family.
Tell me about your family. Wife, kids, tell me.
Just one. Yep. Just
okay.
One. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's getting ready to move out now. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're not old enough for that to happen.
Yeah, it goes by fast. Yeah.
Well, think back to when she was younger. How old is she now?
18.
18. Okay. So are y'all in a neighborhood? Are you in a condo? Where are you?
We're in a home.
In a home. Okay. Probably got some nice streets that you've taken some walks on together, that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. So let's kind of rewind the clock back to when y'all took walks together in the neighborhood, and you probably had a pretty clear route that you went on, but I want you to maybe veer off on a street that you're familiar with, but maybe you don't go down all the time. Have you got that pictured in your mind?
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe the audience can think about their neighborhood or wherever they live, if they're downtown or in a rural area or wherever that is. And so you're walking down one of these streets and you look over and you kind of recognize this house, but you really haven't paid much attention to it. And as you look at the house, you see that the door is open and you're like, wow, that's kind of weird. I wonder why the door's open. And as you start to look at the details around it, you sort of have a little story in your head. And we talked about story earlier. And so I'm going to give you some options here, Ray. And I just want you to think about each one of those options. And there's no wrong answer. Okay. So there's no pressure. Whatever option feels right to you. And again, those folks listening or watching may think about this as well. So the door is open and you look and you kind of lean your head and there's like this stick leaned up against the inside of the doorway, like not on the porch, but like actually kind of near where the light switch would be on the inside. And it's not like a yardstick. It's not like a golf club. It's kind of got some heft to it, right? Like a club or something you might, a 2x4 ish, but maybe a little rougher. And you go, that's kind of out of place. Did somebody use that to pop the door open? Are they going to beat somebody over the head? Like, what in the world is that doing there? I hope they're not going to get robbed. Okay. That's one scenario. The next scenario is, and we'll just wipe that one off your brain and we'll go with the next one. The next one is that door is open, but you can kind of hear a little bit of chatter going on. And it's just got this warm, fuzzy vibe to it that like they've left the door open because some family and friends are coming over. And they're like, oh yeah, they'll just walk in and come to the party that's going on in the backyard. That's the next scenario. Okay. The next scenario is you're standing there and you're kind of looking around and the door is open and you see this shovel leaned up against one of the trees in the front yard. And then you look around and you go, what in the world? There's all these holes that are dug around the yard. That's really weird. Either they're really, a go-getter and they're going to plant some stuff and they've gone in the backyard, or they're searching for some gold, or like, I don't know what's going on. So that's the third scenario.
Right.
And then the fourth scenario is you're kind of looking at that door that's open and that sunlight is just in the perfect spot and it's shining off of that floor on the inside. And that floor is just sparkling and shining like diamonds. And it just feels like, wow, that's really cool. If I had a camera, I'd take a picture right now.
Yeah.
So those are the four scenarios. We've got the stick at the front door. We've got the door that's open because family and friends are coming over. We've got the shovel leaned up against the tree, or we've got that really sparkly floor. Which one of those seems the most likely to you?
Yes, I'm attracted to the floor and the sun coming in. I don't know. I want to think good things. I want to
Yeah,
be positive.
okay. Good. The last one. Great. Well, it's pretty inviting and you go, I just got to get a better look at that. So you walk up the front walk and there's 13 steps that go up to the porch. And so you just start to walk up those steps, but you get to a certain point and somebody yells out, hey, what are you doing? So how many steps do you get up before you hear that voice?
Maybe one.
Oh, just one. Okay. Well, do you have any idea what was going on there?
No, not a clue.
Pretty interesting story, though.
It is. Yeah. It really paints a good word picture for me.
Okay. Well, actually, what you were doing, Ray, and I don't know if you see this or not, but there's a deck of cards sitting on a table right behind me.
Yeah.
You see that?
I do.
I'm going to grab that deck of cards, make sure they stay in the frame here. You were actually selecting a card because when I asked you about those four scenarios, the first one was there was a stick or a club leaned up against the inside of the door. That's the clubs. The next one was the door was open because it was warm, inviting, family and friends, love, heart. The next one was the shovel was leaned up against the tree. I said it was a shovel or a spade, right? That's what you use to dig a hole. And the last one, I said that floor was shining like diamonds. And so we have four different suits. And for some reason, you were drawn to the diamonds. Now, I also said that there were 13 steps that took you up. And so if you go aces low, there's 13 cards, right? And so right. Ace through 10 is 10, Jack, Queen, King, 13 cards. And so you said you got to the first step. So what would that be?
First card would be the ace.
The ace of diamonds.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that I turned over a card in this deck before we actually started. And as I go through these cards, Ray, there's one card and one card only that's turned around. I'll see if we can get the camera to focus on that card. And if that were the ace of diamonds,
man,
that would be insane.
It is. It's very insane. How do you do that? I mean, you're always going to get that question, right? How do you do? That's amazing. I don't even know what happened there.
It was all you.
Wow.
So what happened there? You asked me about the magic script. I told you that my filter that I see the world through is how we communicate. So there's 3 phases to the magic script. The first one is connection. All right. And so you have to connect with your audience, whether you're on a podcast, whether you're speaking in person, whether you're showing up to delivery, whether you're answering the phone to take a call or a dispatch call, whatever the case may be, whether you're posting on social media, you have to know who you're talking to, right? And so what was the first part of what we got into before we started talking about this trip down the street? You
Yes.
remember what happened? Well, I asked you about your family. I asked you where you were. I said you were in the Midwest. I
Right.
asked you about, how was the weather? What did you do this weekend?
Yeah,
What's the most important thing people want to talk about?
all the time.
Themselves, their family,
Yeah.
what they're interested in. So there has to be some sort of rapport. Now, I wasn't faking it. I was genuinely interested. You've got a
Right.
great smile. I want to know your background. I'm going to take the time, whether it's a rush job that we've got to get delivered or not, to understand what is your mood, what is your perspective, what is important to you right now. And so in the context of us taking a walk down the street, I have to get permission to take you on this little journey. The only way I get permission to take you on this little journey is for us to have this little dialogue back and forth and have some sort of connection. And the interesting thing is that there's brain chemistry associated with that connection. We have these neurotransmitters that release chemistry throughout our body, and oxytocin is the neurotransmitter that is like this kind of things are going well. I like where this is going.
Yeah.
And that gives you permission to move to the next stage. And so you probably felt like, wow, I'm on this podcast. Maybe nobody's ever asked me about my family. Like, yeah, this is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
How did that feel to you?
It did. It felt good. It felt like, wow, all right, here's instead of interviewing someone's taking interest in me, in my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And so now we move to the next stage, which is curiosity. And I think that's what's missing now in all communication is curiosity. It's almost like flirting or dating or the anticipation of something that's coming, right? Now, interestingly enough, that's actually a release of dopamine. And we hear about the release of dopamine related to social media addiction. It's not the addiction to social media, it's the expectation of a reward. And so I'm not giving you all the information right out of the gate. I want you to kind of hang out and be curious about where we're going. And I want you to sort of lean in and go, okay, I'm not sure what's happening here.
yeah.
But at some point, if I take that too far, you're going, okay, I have no idea what this is about, right? But you're kind of in it. And so how I framed it was, we're going to take a walk down a street, and the theater of your mind is a very powerful place to be. So you're imagining your neighborhood. The folks who are listening are probably imagining their neighborhood. If I were to spell it out for you, I kind of ruined that. Basically, I've gained permission to move to the next step. And that's the step in the magic script. We go from connection to curiosity. And so I think that's missing a lot now in communication, whether it's a marketing message or whether it's a sales message or, whatever the case may be. And so I took you through some scenarios. Tell me how those scenarios felt to you, because basically it's a release of dopamine, which is, we hear about dopamine with social media addiction. It's actually not the addiction to social media. It's the expectation of a reward. And so you're looking for closure. You're looking for this. So, when you put something out on social media, you expect somebody to like it, to share it, to comment on it. And so it kind of gets you all amped up. But if you stay in that too long, it's exhausting, right? And so I have to be aware that this is a podcast and I can't make this story go on forever. So I said, well, we're going to take a walk down the street and there's going to be 4 different scenarios. So how did that feel to you when I was going through these sort of weird pictures of this house with this open door?
I don't know, man. I'm a thinker, so my mind can run away with me. I was trying to keep it at bay. I was like, man, this is interesting, something different. So I wanted to absorb it. So I wanted to go down that road with you, where you invited me. And then you painted a couple of scenarios where it didn't seem like it was going well for that house. And I'm trying to gravitate to positive energy. And so when you mentioned something really nice, like the light coming through on the floor, and I like things to be clean and everything. So that attracted me away from the negative. I wanted to go to the positive. And I said, man, I want to forget about that. I want to hope good things for the household. So my mind went right to that last one there. It just made me feel better, instead of thinking about something bad. Because I did. That first one I went through, I was like, oh no, the door's open. But yeah, when you painted that last one, that's where I wanted to be.
But it was enough time to keep your interest, and you were in it to see where this was going. But if I'd have gone on another 10 minutes, you'd have been like, okay, that's too much. So you have to be aware of your audience. You got to read your room. You got to know that we're talking about marketing. And so I can't just drag this on forever. So now I come to the third phase, which is the conversion or the climax of the magic trick, right? And so I stopped for a minute and I sort of drug that out, right? And so we get to this point of curiosity, and now I've got to take you to the next phase. And so I sort of turn my seat and I go, there's a deck of cards. What did you think when I said there's a deck of cards?
Like, what's going on here? Curveball.
So your brain is trying to piece that together.
Right. How does that work? Yeah.
And so then I start to explain these 4 scenarios.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, okay. That's interesting. Wait a minute. And then I didn't even name the card at the end, right? I got you to name the card.
Yeah.
And you said, step number 1, ace is low. I made sure I said that. And then you said ace of diamonds, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then I start to spread the cards out very slowly. And then there's one card. And I said, there's a card that's reversed. Let me let the camera focus on that card. And you leaned in. You're like, I don't know if he turns over that card. And then there's this release after I turn over the ace. Oh my gosh, everything is right with the world. It all makes sense. We went down this journey, these 4 scenarios that seem weird. Now they all come together and there's a payoff, right? And so if you reverse engineer that magic trick, that's exactly how any kind of communication should go, whether you're meeting with your team, whether you're figuring out what route we're going to take and you're debriefing whomever needs to be debriefed, whether you've shown up to deliver the load and you need to coordinate with whoever is receiving that on the other end. And that can happen in 30 seconds or it can take 5 minutes, right? But if you skip any one of these steps, it just feels weird. And we talked earlier at the beginning about how does communication matter in a high stress environment? And I said, typically in a high stress environment, we skip the warm fuzzies and we go straight for the barking of what needs to happen, right? And so the recipient of that is not going to have those warm fuzzies of that oxytocin. They're not going to be curious about, where we're going with this. There's no, we go straight to the close, and that just feels abrupt. And so I would say that's the biggest lesson, is to map that out. And then the other thing that I didn't tell you as part of the magic script is if you take every magic trick, whether it be a vanish, a reappearance, a transposition, mind reading, whatever the case may be, you can boil those down into 13 basic effects. And so before you start out, you go, what is the magic that I want to perform for this person? And then that keeps you very focused on delivering that magic. And, it's kind of cliche, but we've all heard, hey, can you just wave your hand and get this shipment from point A to point B without any stress or issues? Think through what that is. And then that can be the subtext and the underlying theme of what you're going to deliver. And I would say if you can just follow these principles, you're going to be able to deliver wow and amazement and feel good feelings in whatever communication you're going for.
I love that. Yeah, that gives you a lot to think about. And also, it does pique my interest to want to learn more about the magic script. I mean, like you said, there's 13 ways you can boil it down to.
Yeah.
Man, that's huge. I mean, not just asking for something and hoping that they'll say yes, but working with the person's chemistry in their body and making sure that they feel comfortable making those decisions that will be right for them and right for their business, right for their life. So, man, I like that. Yeah, that's great.
And to let them connect the dots and let them basically come to the conversion on their own based on all of that curiosity that happens in the middle. Because if I'm telling you what's happening, or if I'm prescribing it and I'm not, they call it tripping over the truth. If I, right before the magic happens, if I can get you to go, oh, no way, no way, no way, and then it happens, then that's even better.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, because you did that with me. I was like, what? Still don't know how you did that with the card, though, man. That's going to bug me for quite some time. Yeah, maybe there's nobody sitting behind you. That's clever. So man, many trucking companies, they rely on word of mouth relationships to grow. So this is definitely something, they're usually working with the phone or text messaging. How does messaging shape reputation, especially when it comes to trust in this line of work?
Yeah, when I hear the word trust, I often hear promise, right? And so a brand is basically the repetition of delivering on a promise. And people can rely that what you say is going to happen. And that is the foundation of trust, right? If you think about a movie character, or if you're reading a good book, you learn to understand the behaviors of the main character. And when something happens to put pressure on them or to put them in a different direction, because you know that character, you know how they're going to respond. And so I would say the same thing for a business. Whether you're a independent solo operator or whether you're a large group, trust is basically that unseen or that unheard belief that what is told is actually going to come to pass. And that doesn't happen immediately. It happens through consistency over time. It happens through the process of, again, highlighting customer testimonials. Now more than ever, people are looking at reviews online because people trust what other people say about you. We call them trust signals, right? And so they're all basically pointing to, is this person going to do what they say they're going to do? And I would say the equity involved in trust is huge.
Awesome. I love that. Something you can't see. It's almost like magic when you trust.
Mm-hmm.
If you mess up your magic trick, you break that trust. So there's a lot of magic being delivered in the trucking industry or any business these days, because it is definitely hard to keep revenue going because there's so much competition, or just a lot on in life generally, a lot of distractions. So what would you say that most blue collar or field-based industries make a mistake when building their website or their digital content, or just going forward with the marketing of their brand?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that we see across all industries is talking too much about yourself and not having that customer in your mindset when you're putting that website together. If you think about the construction of a website, you've heard the term above the fold. That is actually an old newspaper term when they used to put the newspaper in that box where you put your quarters in. The things that were on the top half of that page as it was folded were the most important headlines. And those headlines really had to do with the impact that news story had on the public to then get them to put their quarters in that box to get that newspaper out. And so that's the most important real estate. And if you're talking about the fact that you've been in business for 30 years and you're family owned, that should come later. But again, what are you promising is going to happen? I would say you have to know what your audience is looking for. And so if you are a carrier that guarantees delivery in the shortest amount of time at the best price, that's the value proposition that should be at the top of the page. And that's going to elicit curiosity. So let's say that everybody else in the industry is guaranteeing a 2-week turnaround, and you're saying you can get it there in a week. Well, you've just opened a loop to go, how is that possible? And so now you can go into exactly how that's done. You can talk about the distribution channels that you've got, partnerships across whatever the distance is from point A to point B. You can talk about how this is family owned and you stand behind this. You can put up your customer reviews. So I would say those are the biggest things that we see is talking too much about yourself and not presenting that value proposition that gives people that curiosity as to wanting to learn more.
Nice. Simply put, I like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies out there trying to help out with bridging a gap of language gaps in trucking. There's companies that are trying to help out with helping people learn to be English proficient. There's a lot of multilingual teams out there, a lot of people from different countries that are communicating. I mean, it's a huge task globally. Without overcomplicating things, how can companies communicate more effectively when it comes to language?
Yeah, I would say number one, understand the cultural differences between the various language speaking countries that you're working with, right? Some things that make sense in cliches or idioms in the US make no sense to anybody outside of the US. So that would be one thing. Certainly having somebody that understands that local language, and often it's not a business language through a translation service, but it's the language that is spoken, which is more casual. And so understanding that translation, because that can communicate a lot related to your brand, whether you're very stiff and corporate or whether you're more relaxed and able to speak to the people who are your target audience. The other thing is making sure your website is available in multiple languages so that it doesn't prevent someone from being able to understand and work with you. Don't rely on Google Translate. I think there should be a native, and there are various triggers that you can put on a website to know where somebody is visiting the site from, and it can convert to that as the default, or you can give somebody the choice to switch as they go. So I would say those are a couple of quick things.
Nice. Yeah. So language is good. Helping out with that, those clues, making sure people feel at home when they come to your website. And then reverse too. We had John Rojas on and talked about bridging the gap of languages in the trucking industry because of that whole new rule that they're enforcing. So there's some reverse engineering there too. So in your experience, how do great leaders use communication not to just give direction, but to give their teams alignment or motivate them to move forward in one direction?
Yeah. So the best definition of a leader that I've been able to come up with is someone who casts a vision and ask people to come along to partner in that vision. And so if you're not clear on what that vision is, how are you going to get people to get behind it? Right. And so the other thing that needs to happen with that vision is you have to be able to repeat exactly what that is, and you have to make that vision repeatable. And so if I'm communicating to a team and I'm expecting them to carry out or help the organization carry something out, the person that I'm speaking with should be able to pass that along to the next person, and they should be able to understand what's going on. We probably all remember that game we played as kids where you sat in a row and somebody whispered in the next person's ear. I think they called it the telephone game or something. And so when it got down to the end, it was like some completely different thing than it started out to be, right? And so how do you win that game? you make sure the person that is receiving that message repeats it back to you before they pass it along to the next person, to make sure what's getting passed along is exactly what you want. And so again, what does it come down to? Clear, concise, repeatable, and motivating. If it's not motivating and you don't understand why it should be motivating to the person that you're communicating with, then they don't really have any intrinsic incentive to make it happen. So that would be my short answer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you even think about too with the high turnover or driver frustration.
Yeah.
What role can that also play in helping them with the culture and the company to help retain drivers instead of losing them that way, or even just employees that help out?
Yeah. And I would say part of that, we live in a world now where transparency is even more important. If you're expecting high performers on your team, you should trust that they're smart and they can put two and two together. And so if there was a bad quarter, you should explain why it was a bad quarter. Were there internal challenges that caused that we need to look at as a organization? Or were there things going on externally that caused that to be a bad quarter? And here's what we can control, and here's what we can't control. Don't just gloss over it or try to hide behind bad news. Address it head on, explain it. And so I think when you look at culture, the more open a leader is and the more trusted the more trust, we go back to that term, that you have among team members, the stronger the culture is. And that's what's going to help retain drivers, people on the team. We all want to work in a positive environment. You mentioned that earlier, have good feelings instead of bad. There is research to say that people leave an organization not because of pay, but because of a bad manager. And so if you think about it, yes, everybody wants to be paid a premium. But if I have the choice to be paid a premium and work for a nightmare organization, or if I have a choice to be paid fairly and work for an organization with a great culture, I'm going to choose the second one.
Nicely said. Nightmare organization versus one that makes you feel at home, feel at
Yeah.
peace. So when you go home, you're not trying to get that all off of you. It's already
Yeah.
easy because you
Yeah,
got
you
it
got to
next
take a shower. Whoa, feel icky. Yeah.
That's perfect. Nicely said. What's one piece of messaging or advice you would give to someone who's trying to grow their trustworthiness, their lasting brand, maybe in the trucking space or wherever? What would you say to those individuals?
Yeah, it's funny. I just wrote a LinkedIn post about this today. It doesn't matter whether it's your own name or the brand that you're looking for. Let's take our personal name because you said a small independent. We all have three names. We have the name that we were born with and given. We have the name that we call ourselves, and we have the name that somebody else calls us. And they might not be the same, especially those last two, right? So if I think I'm a reliable person, but everybody else says, I can't trust you as far as I can see you, then you got some work to do, right? If all of your reviews are bad, you have to take that news and go, okay, what am I going to do with that? Well, you got to fix it. You got to apologize. You got to demonstrate. You got to prove through action that you are trustworthy. And so I would say, first of all, what do you want to be known for? What are the adjectives that you want people to repeat about you and your business? And then you have to think about, how am I going to reverse engineer making sure those words are repeated about me? And if you don't proactively promote and pursue those words, people are going to stick other words to it. And so when you're thinking about your core values as an organization, when you're thinking about your marketing messages, when you're thinking about your value proposition, pick some of those words and start to repeat them and live into them and fulfill the promise of those words that you've chosen.
Yeah, I like that, man. Yeah, you're an inspirational speaker at heart. And you think about people They want to be something special. Well, you have to have those special qualities within yourself. And if they're missing,
Yep.
you can find a way to instill those back into yourself. If you lost your way, don't give up. There's work you can do to repair and make those things right. So, great words of wisdom there. And I think a lot of people should take that to heart as to how they can help themselves and others and also their business and what they're doing. Like you said, do what you say you're going to do. So that's awesome. Thank you. How can people reach out to Thrive Agency? Is it thriveagency.com, or is there another way you prefer?
No, that's great. So thriveagency.com. We've got a lot of resources on there. We are a full service digital marketing agency. We've been around 20 years, actually celebrating our anniversary in October. So we've been around the block. If anybody has any questions for me specifically, reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can DM me. Happy to set up a chat. If you need a second opinion or you're just trying to navigate, where do I go from here? I'm happy to give some free advice. So yeah, my name is Jimi Gibson, Jimi, spelled a little bit differently, but I post some sort of tip or tool on LinkedIn every day. So I'd say those are the two ways that people can find me.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. I like the name Jimmy too. It makes me think musician. Jimmy can do that. That's pretty slick.
Yep.
Man, so that's great. You can handle small and large companies and problems. So I can see a lot of great things if people just reach out to you guys and use the resources that you have available. I think they're going to be successful and get the results that they want. So keep doing the great work that you are already doing. And man, I appreciate you coming on the show, sharing your message with our listeners and helping them see that, hey, there may be another way you can go about something. Don't just give up or get frustrated or be bombarded by all the other marketing agencies out there. There's some different ones out there.
Yeah.
I get emails quite a bit of what I should do different. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go that route. But yours looks way more legit, and I think a lot of people can trust you. And based off the words you're putting out there, man, hey, keep it up. Keep up the great work. That's awesome.
Great. Well, thank you, Ray. I've had a good time chatting with you.
Yeah, and that magic trick, man, I got to go back and look at that when I go back over the episode and see, hey, how did he do that? See if somebody snuck up behind the chair. That was good. Oh man. So yeah, I look forward to more in the future. And thank you for everything you've done being on the show. And let's keep the message out there for all the drivers to tune in to thriveagency.com. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and that's delivered.
Are you a trucker looking for a safe and reliable place to park? Look no further than Truck Parking Club. With locations across the country, we've got the perfect spot waiting for you, whether it's daily or long-term parking. And right now, use promo code DELIVERED at checkout for an exclusive discount. Reserve your spot today at truckparkingclub.com and drive stress-free, knowing your parking is covered.